You know, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't make much sense to me either. But we do have ourselves an update in regards to the St. Louis Blues and what Montreal Canadiens fans can potentially expect when it comes to these guys and a trade. Because, I don't know if y'all noticed, but the NHL standings, they're pretty tight right now. This especially after yesterday's festivities. If you head over to the wildcard Western race as it stands at the moment, you have the St. Louis Blues, who are just on the outside looking in. They are tied with the Winnipeg Jets, 2 points out of the final wildcard spot. That wildcard, by the way, held by San Jose. You also have Edmonton in there. Same amount of points, but fewer games. So things are looking really tight for these teams, not just in the West, but in the East, it's pretty tight as well. St. Louis was a team that a lot of folks were pretty disappointed with to start out the National Hockey League season, but when you take a look at what they've done lately, they're 5-3-2 in their last 10, they've won 2 in a row, and because of these results, you can debate maybe some of the trade conversations in regards to this team have taken a bit of a turn. To help us out with this idea, I wanted to head over to an article published on HabsFanatics.com by Elias Edmondson. How the Blues' surge back into the playoff race could derail their trade talks with the Canadiens. Now, of course, we're not going to pretend like there haven't been any trade conversations between St. Louis and Montreal. This guy right here, Jordan Kyrou, his name was linked to the Habs for most of the summer before his trade protection kicked in. And there were a lot of rumors saying, hey, this guy would be okay to go to Montreal. He would be a very good addition in Montreal. He is a consistent 70-point player who was unfortunately only on pace for 40 points this year. Who knows if he would have been able to produce more if he played in Montreal. He also is 27 years old, drafted in 2016, so just 1 year older than Nick Suzuki. So Jordan Kyrou is one of these guys that I think a lot of Canadiens fans penciled into their brains, saying, yeah, out of all the options that Montreal could acquire up front, this is a pretty good one. He fits the age range, he's skilled, he can score points. There's a lot to like out of Mr. Jordan Kyrou over here, but we have ourselves a derailing of the conversations based off of the Blues' recent results. This article will be linked in the description if you want to go out there and read it yourself. Let's scroll and read what Edmondson has to say. Without making much noise with their win over the Canadiens last night, the Blues are back in the playoff race. It's pretty incredible. Just a few days ago, people were talking about the Blues as a very interesting team on the NHL trade market, as a team that would be an ideal partner to complete a trade with the Montreal Canadiens. And now everything has probably changed. Because of their win against the Habs, don't be surprised if the Blues have cancelled or put on hold all discussions to trade some of their big-name players. A trade falling through because the Canadiens and the Blues, because of their big climb in the standings? It's definitely a possibility to keep in mind. Everything indicates the Canadiens and Blues have had serious discussions recently to complete a major trade. Everything indicates the Blues were big sellers and were open to trading their big names, but everything might have changed now, since they're back in the playoff race. This is where we dive into the actual results. Yeah, there you go. Blues have a minus 27 goal differential, but are suddenly just 2 points out of a playoff spot. What a strange league. Now, that's all fine and dandy. Hey, the Blues are winning games, they beat Montreal, they're back in the wildcard hunt. That's pretty swell. But how exactly does that impact trades? Well, this is what Pierre LeBrun went out there and said on Oilers Now about a week ago. I think the Blues were real in telling teams. They were listening and willing to listen on all kinds of guys in trade talks. I don't think St. Louis is looking to make a future deal here. They're looking to make hockey deals, and those are harder to make. You then had yourselves Frank Saravalli going out there and saying as well, the Blues are reportedly looking to make some trades, and Brayden Schenn could be the first guy out the door, not necessarily a Jordan Kyrou. Now, this assessment was from a while ago as well, but I'd say that from November 11th all the way until today, this narrative that St. Louis could be only interested in trading some of these older guys is probably more prevalent, is it not? If the St. Louis Blues are all of a sudden a competitive hockey team that's in the mix for a wild card, and they're trying their best to continue down the stretch of building with these guys, I think it'd probably be fair to say that Brayden Schenn is in the second half of his career. Jordan Kyrou is still smack dab in his prime. Now, that's no disrespect to Brayden Schenn. He's 34 years old, though, and he's actually produced fairly decently this season, too. 13 points, 30 games played, on pace for about 35 points, which, for an unk of his status, I don't think it's really that bad. Last year, Brayden Schenn had 50 points in 82 games played, so we've acknowledged this. Almost everybody on St. Louis has dipped in production this season. But if the Blues continue to be competitive, or at least if they want to start extending their window of competition, maybe a Brayden Schenn trade is a lot more feasible and viable for their future than a Jordan Kyrou trade. For as much as people will debate that the Blues might have some sort of an issue internally, whether or not the coaching staff trusts Kyrou, whether or not they like Kyrou and the way he plays, that's besides the point. The guy's 7 years younger than Brayden Schenn. So for the Montreal Canadiens specifically, if the St. Louis Blues are looking to make hockey deals, they're not really looking to make future deals, if they want to trade away guys and hold on to players that will retain value in the next little while, I think jumping off of that Brayden Schenn contract, $6.5 million a year till the end of 2028, is probably a smarter move when it comes to projecting this team now and into the next few years. Jordan Kyrou is signed on for longer. He's making a little bit more as well, but there is cost control here with a guy who, for the past few seasons, has been a 70-point NHL player. I'd say that's pretty good at $8.125 million a year. But for the Montreal Canadiens, obviously the idea of a Brayden Schenn trade does not sound any more appealing than a Jordan Kyrou trade. Habs fans were all over the idea of Kyrou in the summer. We were making videos about it like crazy. Y'all were in the comments debating and discussing amongst yourselves. But Brayden Schenn is absolutely not the kind of guy that I think Canadiens fans will get even a fraction of excitement for in the same way as they did for Jordan Kyrou. It's not that Brayden Schenn's bad. I mean, he is less productive, but he is way older. And I think for Montreal Canadiens fans, they'll look at this saying, wait a minute, why would they get a 34-year-old guy? What's the reason behind trading away potential future pieces? Maybe not even specifically future pieces, but pieces that can help in the future as well. Not just draft picks and whatever, but younger players that are not 34 years old. Would that not be hurting the Canadiens' future for an upgrade on Brayden Schenn down the middle? I can understand that thought process, but at the same time, I do think that there have been enough conversations in Montreal about veteran players that I think it's not that terrible of an idea to discuss. The amount of conversations we've had about Crosby and Malkin, for example, like, you can't open the door a little bit to Brayden Schenn, who's a tad younger than those guys. Definitely not as good, but still, unk status, you can say. At the end of the day, though, Brayden Schenn, is he a lot more of a desirable trade option for Montreal than Jordan Kyrou? Absolutely not. But with the way St. Louis has started to string together wins and get positive results, it seems more so like that hockey trade scenario that's not just all futures and whatever could be on the table here. And if the Blues want to cultivate a winning locker room with the guys they already have internally, maybe trading away a Brayden Schenn makes more sense than that Jordan Kyrou deal. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this St. Louis Blues and Montreal Canadiens trade update? Do you agree with this assessment or not? Let me know in the comments all your opinions here. This article is going to be linked in the description as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.